A Senate committee is talking about banning TikTok. That ban would apply to all state-issued devices. Security experts say the social media app could expose user data to the Chinese government.
This device just is not secure enough to be on people's computers and iPads.
Known for its viral dancing videos and mashups, Kentucky state leaders say they're concerned about the Chinese-owned app TikTok and are making moves to remove it from all state-owned devices. Republican Senator Robbie Mills is a sponsor of Senate Bill 20 and spoke to committee members Wednesday morning about the measure.
Important information that state government has, like social security numbers and things like that of people, unemployment information, that we protect that information as best we can.
Wording of the bill indicated that the social media platform could also be banned on state-owned networks like college campuses, which could have an impact on students who use the app on their private devices. Senator Mills says that won't be the case. The state has already prohibited TikTok for those employed by the executive branch.
We did make a slight change. We have a committee substitute today that we'll need to accept, and that was after some feedback from the General Assembly, from the executive branch.
The measure passed unanimously 9-0. Senator Mills says Senate Bill 20 boils down to safety and security of private data and preventing the possibility of it getting into the wrong hands, like foreign adversary, the Chinese government. That bill will head to a full vote on the Senate floor sometime in the near future, and a similar bill has also been introduced in the House.